This is the story of an HOA, a homeowners association that thought it was untouchable, a community where neighbors lived in fear, and where one woman, known as HOA Karen, ruled with an iron fist wrapped in pearls. But what she didn't, was that she had picked a fight with the wrong family, a decorated military veteran, a man trained to face down enemies far worse than a suburban bully, a man named Tank, and when the HOA crossed him, stealing his Jeep, targeting his family and trying to destroy his name, Tank did what he was trained to do. He fought back. This is the true story of HOA corruption, HOA revenge, and HOA Karen's downfall, and it begins with silence. The neighborhood looked like any other. Manicured lawns, perfectly trimmed hedges, a place where families thought they were buying peace. But peace here came with a price, monthly dues, endless rules, and a board that cared less about community and more about control. At the center of it all was Bethany Kensington Wright, the self-appointed queen of the HOA. Neighbors called her Karen because she didn't just enforce the rules, she weaponized them. Holiday lights up past December? Fined. Mailbox the wrong shade of beige? Fined. Children's toys left in the yard? Fined again. And if you challenged her authority, the punishments escalated. For Tank and his wife Maya, it started with their Jeep. It was no ordinary car. It was Tank's pride, a rugged, battle-worn vehicle that had carried him through deployments, a symbol of survival and resilience. One morning, it was gone. At first, Tank thought it had been stolen, but when he called the tow yard, he discovered the truth. The HOA had ordered it removed. Bethany claimed it violated community standards. Too rugged, too military, not aesthetic enough for her perfect little suburb. Tank was furious, but Maya warned him, "Don't let them bait you. This is what she does." So Tank stayed calm and started taking notes. It didn't stop there. Notices appeared on their door weekly. Grass too long, dog barking too loud, trash cans left out for an extra hour, all petty, all false. But each one carefully documented in HOA records, painting Tank and Maya as problem homeowners. And when Tank tried to appeal, Bethany shut him down with a smug smile. "The board has already voted. You're in violation." But Tank noticed something. The board wasn't voting at all. Bethany was making decisions alone and forging signatures to make it look official. That was her mistake. Tank's military training had taught him one thing above all: discipline beats chaos. While Bethany screamed and threatened, Tank gathered evidence, photos of notices, copies of forged bylaws, witness statements from neighbors, even financial records showing HOA funds missing. Maya helped him organize it into a dossier, a weapon of truth. And when Bethany tried to ambush him at a community meeting, Tank unleashed it. Sound, papers slamming on table, murmurs from a crowd. Neighbors gasped as the evidence spread across the table. Bethany's forged documents, her illegal fines, even her personal expenses charged to HOA accounts. For the first time, people saw the truth. Bethany tried to shout him down. "He's lying. He's a troublemaker. He doesn't respect this community." But the fear in her eyes gave her away. One by one, neighbors started speaking up. A retired teacher who'd been fined for planting roses. A young mother punished for a birthday party that broke noise ordinances. A veteran fined for flying the American flag. The room shifted. Bethany no longer had control. Tank did, and that night the community realized their HOA president wasn't protecting property values. She was exploiting them. Scene 6, the calm before the storm. But Bethany wasn't finished. For 2 weeks the neighborhood was quiet. Too quiet. No notices, no harassment. Not even a glare from Bethany when Tank walked by. But Tank recognized the tactic. This wasn't surrender. This was regrouping. Bethany wasn't done fighting. She was preparing for war. And when she struck again, it would be bigger than anyone imagined. Bethany's counterattack came swift and brutal. One morning, Tank and Maya woke up to find a notice taped across their front door in red ink. Final warning, property seizure pending. Bethany had filed paperwork claiming they owed thousands in unpaid fines. And with those fines, she argued, the HOA had the right to foreclose on their home. It was a nuclear move, but Tank was ready, because while Bethany forged documents in the dark, Tank had already contacted a different kind of army, the JAG Corps. The Judge Advocate General's office didn't take harassment of military families lightly. When Tank showed them his evidence, the forged bylaws, the fraudulent fines, the stolen Jeep, they knew this wasn't just an HOA dispute. This was fraud, extortion, conspiracy. And suddenly Bethany's suburban power trip had attracted federal attention. But Tank wasn't done. He filed formal complaints with the state attorney general. He leaked documents to investigative journalists. And he quietly met with neighbors, building a coalition ready to testify. What Bethany thought was a one-on-one war was now a full-scale operation. Bethany lashed out harder. Security cameras caught masked men vandalizing Tank's property, slashed tires, spray-painted threats. One night, a brick through the window with a note, "Leave or else." But Tank didn't leave. He reinforced. Military discipline replaced fear. Motion lights, cameras, logs of every incident. And when the police arrived, Tank handed them evidence, neat, organized, undeniable. Bethany had crossed the line from harassment into criminal intimidation. The walls were closing in, and Bethany could feel it. It happened on a gray morning. Sound, sirens wailing faintly, then closer. Neighbors peeked through blinds as unmarked SUVs rolled into the subdivision. Agents in jackets marked FBI and State Fraud Division moved with precision. They went straight to Bethany's house. Within minutes, she was led out in handcuffs. Her perfect pink blazer wrinkled, her golden bob disheveled, her voice shrieking. As cameras flashed, the charges: wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy, embezzlement of HOA funds, and harassment of a military family. The queen of the HOA, dethroned in front of the entire neighborhood. The trial revealed everything. Bethany had siphoned tens of thousands from HOA accounts into her personal expenses, luxury spas, vacations, even cosmetic surgery. She forged board votes, silenced dissent, and targeted homeowners who threatened her control. And Tank's Jeep? Sold off illegally with proceeds pocketed directly by her maintenance fund. Neighbors testified in droves. Every petty fine, every cruel humiliation. It all came out under oath, and when the jury returned, the verdict was swift. Guilty. Bethany Kensington Wright, the infamous HOA Karen, sentenced to federal prison. For Tank and Maya, vindication came quietly. The HOA board was dissolved. A receiver appointed to manage community funds transparently. Fines expunged. Liens canceled. Stolen money repaid. Neighbors who had once whispered in fear now walked openly, greeting Tank with nods of gratitude. He had done what no one thought possible. He stood up to the HOA and won, but Tank didn't see himself as a hero. "I just protected my family," he told reporters. "That's what I was trained to do." The story spread far beyond the neighborhood. News outlets dubbed it the fall of HOA Karen. Forums lit up with homeowners sharing their own battles. And veterans across the country rallied behind Tank, a symbol of discipline, integrity, and resistance against abuse of power. Even today, his story is retold as a warning that sometimes the most dangerous enemies aren't overseas. They're hiding behind HOA bylaws and plastic smiles. So the next time you hear about an HOA, remember Bethany Kensington Wright. Remember how greed, control, and arrogance led to her downfall. And remember the family who refused to be broken. Because when an HOA crosses the line, when neighbors become tyrants, there are always consequences. This was the story of HOA corruption, HOA revenge, and the takedown of HOA Karen. And if you've ever dealt with an HOA nightmare of your own, you know one thing for certain. Sometimes the best revenge is simply telling the story.